When will cruise lines set sail again after the current crisis? To be sure, at the moment there are much bigger issues at hand for many people than taking a cruise, but over time we will get through the outbreak, and life, which has been so disrupted over the past couple of months, will at least start to look more recognizable. People will want to get back to work, eat at restaurants, and enjoy one another's company. And after all of this, who wouldn't be thinking about a vacation? But if you're wanting to go on a cruise, then you might have to wait a little longer than you might expect. First, a little background. The cruise industry made a historic move in mid-March. The industry, including all the big names like Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian, suspended new sailings. Originally, the pause was slated for roughly 30 days, with ships returning to service in mid-April. Now, this was a good idea. With cruise ships and coronavirus already in the headlines, more ships with outbreaks was bad news that cruise lines didn't need. Unfortunately for everyone involved, the suspension applied to new sailings. Cruises that were already ongoing, including some lengthy trips of several weeks, kept sailing. That's why there have been more ships hit with illness, even after the cruise suspension. Meanwhile, the original dates set by cruise lines to return in mid-April have also been extended. Each cruise line is a little different, but as of now, most have return to sailing dates set for mid-May. But is that realistic? Given what the world is seeing, it doesn't seem to be so. In fact, an August return, or even later, seems to be more likely to us before ships start to sail again, even in a limited capacity. So if cruise lines have suspended sailings until mid-May, why could it be much longer before they actually return to sailing? First, while it appears the growth of the outbreak is slowing, it's still at its global peak and still growing. The outbreak shows there might be light at the end of the tunnel, but we're still very much in the middle of this storm. In fact, there are now more than 10 times as many cases of the virus as when cruise lines originally stopped sailing back in March. Second, while there does seem to be some reduction in the growth rate, that comes at a big price. These slower growth rates appear to be because of the drastic actions taken around the world, with people staying home and more social distancing. Orders around the United States and the world have kept interactions between people reduced, but many of these orders don't have set end dates and could last for weeks, well past the current planned return dates for cruise lines. Obviously, it is a challenge for cruise lines to sail, with millions of people around the country and the world still ordered to stay home. Third, even after there is finally a peak in cases, it is still a long road to recovery. South Korea has been the gold standard when it comes to responding to the outbreak. The number of total active cases peaked about 3 to 4 weeks after the virus hit, topping on March 11th at about 7,500. That's a drop in the bucket compared to what we've seen in Europe and the United States. Despite being roughly a month past its peak in cases, however, there's still about 3,500 people in South Korea still sick. In other words, it's taken a month to get the outbreak numbers cut in half. At that rate, it would take another month to get that figure down to 0. So for the country that's shown the best response to the outbreak, it looks like it will take 3 whole months to recover from when the outbreak started. For the United States, the world's largest cruise market, it's been a little over a month since the outbreak started, and the country has yet to see a peak in active cases. At this point, it is a near certainty that getting over this will take longer than the estimated 3 months in South Korea. Meanwhile, the CDC has modified a no-sail order that ceases operations of cruise ships in the U.S. until one of the following 3 things happens. First, the declaration of coronavirus as a public health emergency expires. Second, the CDC director changes the order based on public health or other considerations. Or third, 100 days from the date of publication of the order in the Federal Register. That 100 days would put us in late July. Even so, it's not set in stone, and that order could be extended. Given the outbreak, it is likely that the last part of society to open back up will be anything that puts lots of people in close proximity, such as sporting events and, yes, cruising. That's why it seems possible cruises won't sail again until August at the earliest, but returning in September or later could be in the cards. To be sure, no one can know at this point the exact date that cruises might sail again, but right now, there's plenty of reason to think they may not return for months.